how to communicate effectively is paramount for you succeeding in life, for your career, for your personal life, and many other areas. And sometimes it's a little bit tricky to know what to say and how to do it. Well, I've got something today that you are really going to like. It's an interview with a dear friend of mine and a person who's an expert on communicating. Her name is Sharon Harris. She's the president of the Advocates for Self-Government, and she's joining us now from her offices there in Cartersville, Georgia. Sharon, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Terry. I'm delighted to be here.
I was just reading your book on how to be a super libertarian, and I love the way, super communicator, as a libertarian, and you give some principles as a libertarian that you are and that I am, and these apply in many different areas of life. And I would encourage those that are watching this to look into this book if you want to improve your communication skills. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about the idea of the book and the concepts and the principles that you have behind that.
Okay, the book is designed primarily for libertarians, although as we started putting the book together, we realized that most of the concepts in here are useful for just about anybody under any circumstances. And so it's been kind of fun to share these with other people, whether they're libertarians or not. But what we wanted to say in this book was that when you have something to say, which most of us do, we want to persuade others of that. We want to share those ideas with other people. We get excited about them. And sometimes in getting excited about them, we lose track of how the other person is receiving what we're saying. And so the book is really helping you come up with a way to present your ideas, whatever they may be, in a very attractive way that people will enjoy hearing and will be interested in learning more about.
Yeah, and I think you do a great job with that, Sharon. As I read, I loved the book. And reading through it, it was fun, it was humorous, it was just a delight to read it and to enjoy it as we went through. But I want to go over some specific things. You packed a lot in there. And those of you that are watching this, I would encourage you to take a look at it. I even took a bunch of notes, made a mind map on several things there. And I want to go over a few of these right here as we go through it. One of the things you talk about is in communication, the power of questions, and how by using questions the right way it can work. And you mentioned a technique called flipping the question. Tell us a little bit about what that is and how we can use that in our own communication.
Okay, one of the things that I noticed that was really well done by a few people that I've seen do this, and I named it the flipping of the question, because the idea is sometimes a person will ask you a question and their assumption in that question is that what you have advocated is kind of silly or crazy or whatever. So they'll say something like, just as an example, someone who is advocating ending the drug war, the prohibition of drugs, someone may say to them, why on earth would you want to legalize marijuana? Now, implied in that question, they're saying to you that they don't think it's a good idea. And so one of the things that you can do to point out is that maybe the opposite of that is not such a good idea. You can kind of flip it around. And I noticed Ron Paul doing this, which I thought was very effective. Someone asked him that, said, why on earth would you want to legalize marijuana? And he said, well, really, why on earth would you want to put someone in jail for smoking marijuana?
Good point.
He took the question and just kind of turned it around so that the other person kind of has to justify their position, which I think can be a very powerful tool under certain circumstances. And you do it in a very civil fashion. You don't attack them, but you just kind of show that the opposite of what they're talking about might be questionable as well.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because you're addressing what's going on and really looking at the bigger issue. Saying, hey, this is something else that you want to look at, something else you want to consider. Which, by the way, leads to another thing you mentioned. I love this one. I've heard of it before, and a mutual friend of ours, Marshall Fritz, who is no longer with us, shared this, I remember years ago, the Ransberger pivot. Tell us what the Ransberger pivot is all about and how we can use that in just regular day-to-day communication.
Well, really, it's a dance, or a martial arts procedure, right? No, it's really not. By pivot, it's basically pivots the discussion around. And the Ransberger pivot is designed for one primary purpose, and that is to answer a hostile question. Now, I don't know if any of our viewers have ever had a hostile question hurled at them, but what happens when someone is hostile towards you, and sometimes they will just kind of scream at you and say, you're a bad person. I don't like what you're saying. You're an awful person. And that's when the Rendsburger pivot is most effective. And what's amazing about it is, what it does is it helps you have a rapport with the person who's asking the question. And that's an amazing thing when you think of it. Someone's being hostile toward you, you pivot around to being friends with them, which is just kind of amazing. And it works very well. It works like magic, because what you're going to do when they're asking you a hostile question is you're going to think for a minute and make an educated guess as to what their real concerns are. Why are they so upset about this? Do they have a concern that you can address? And amazingly and fortunately, almost everyone has the same concerns. So when someone asks you, for example, oh, you just want children not to be educated or something, they have a thought about you. They may even think you have bad intentions. When they ask you that, you realize that their concern is what? Their concern is children being educated. Do you share that concern? Of course you do. So what you say is, like you, I would like to have a world where children get the best education imaginable. And that is a true statement. And what it does is, suddenly, if they think you have bad intentions, or they think you don't really care about children being educated, then they're thinking, wait a minute, maybe we do have something in common. And so it stops the hostility in its tracks, which is really nice. And it's a way for you to then be on the same page with the other person. And then you can have a civil discussion about the issue.
Yeah, Sharon, I think that's wonderful, because really what you're doing is you're moving it from a position of hostility in communication, which unfortunately happens sometimes, over to let's find those areas where we can connect with them, where we can do that much better. And you stress that several times throughout the book. And again, those of you that are watching this book is one you definitely want to get, because it's really short. It's easy to read. It's in little bite-sized chunks. Each chapter can stand alone. And you're able to read that quickly, get a lesson, and go, hey, I can use that. And so one of the last things I put down here is, I thought this one was hilarious, the way you put it in there. You referenced a friend of ours, Michael Cloud, friend of yours and mine also, who talks about cross-dressing for liberty. Now, it sounds like something that might not be legal in Cartersville, Georgia. I don't know. But Sharon, I'm going to have you explain to us what cross-dressing for liberty is all about and what in the world that means.
Okay, well, cross-dressing for liberty is an interesting, a great little technique that Michael invented, and I just think it's really a great way to, again, we're getting right back to the idea of rapport with other people, to sharing things that we have in common. And so when you look at from a libertarian perspective, and people out there who know what libertarian ideas, a lot of times we want to talk to people on different sides of the spectrum of the political map. So there will be people who are liberal, people who are conservative, people who are libertarian, people who are centrist, and so forth. So the idea of cross-dressing is to take an idea that might appeal to someone on the left, but you want it to appeal to the right as well, so you use it in terms that they will like. A good example is, for example, the gun control issue is a very good one. If you're talking to someone who calls themselves a liberal, they may not like guns at all, and they may think people shouldn't be allowed to carry guns or to have guns at all. And so it's hard to talk to them about, if you talk to them about, I have a right to use a gun and I have a right to carry guns, that scares them, okay? But they are interested in people being safe. They're interested in women being able to protect themselves from a man who may want to attack them. They're interested in protecting their children. And so when you're talking to them, you cross-dress in that you talk about the issues that concern them. So if you're talking about gun rights, you talk about gun rights as a civil liberty. And in fact, gun rights are a civil liberty. The right to self-defense, the civil rights idea of owning a gun. This opens the conversation to the person where you're talking about something that interests them and that they understand. So this is a way of just And again, just like we talked about with the other things, you first have to know what the other person's concern is. So that's what's so important, I think, that we talk about throughout this book, is the idea of establishing a rapport with people to understand what their concerns are and to address those concerns. And the first thing we can do is find areas of agreement, and that's what makes conversation possible.
Yes, very, very good point. And so those of you that are watching this, you've seen there's some real powerful tools here that can be used when you're communicating, whether it's about liberty or it's about other features and other topics. Knowing these topics, knowing how to use them will be very helpful to you. Matter of fact, I would put this book right up there, for those of you that understand liberty and freedom. You'll get this right up there with Atlas Shrugged, with For a New Liberty from Murray Rothbard, and other books that can really help you become the kind of person you want, because they train at the Advocates for Self-Government. They train them on these types of things. So Sharon, we're not going to let you get away from here before finding out how people can get in touch with you and how they can pick up the book. If someone says, okay, I want to find out more about this book, I want to get it, and maybe I want to learn more about the Advocates for Self-Government, what's the best way for them to do that?
Okay, to find out, one of the things that we do, which is helping people learn to be good communicators, if you go to communicatingliberty.com, you will find out about our training courses, and you can also find out how to get the book. You can get the book from our store at theadvocates.org, clicking on the store. You can purchase it there. We will soon have the ebook available on Amazon. So anyone who would like to know when that comes out, if they contact me at Sharon at theadvocates.org. I believe the address is down at the bottom of the page of the screen here. And you can go to me, send me an email, and I will keep you informed of what all is available, including trainings that might be near you, or ways that you can have us come to you and actually do a communication training, which is great fun.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, now with the wonders of Google Plus Hangout, which we're using today, using this, you'll be able to communicate in many other ways. I know that's something you're exploring. So I would say for those of you that are watching this, if you're interested in that, of being able to tap into ways to learn, to grow, these are available in a free market way, of course, where both parties benefit and there is no initiation of force or coercion, and we'll be able to get that moving in the right way. Well, Sharon Harris, thank you so much for doing the book, for being here with us today, and just for being the person you are. You and your husband Jimmy really live and embody what freedom is like and what it means for doing that today. And we really appreciate the treat, the wonderful gift that you've given us today to be here and share your ideas. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much, Terry.